The nation fell in love with Cam Skattebo dominating college football, but what is he going to look like at the next level? Let's unpack it on another edition of Southwest Bias.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Of course, brought to you by Brandon Bills. Elevate your brand with Brandon Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. That's a sexy looking hat there, Bo. That's right. I got Bo. I got Totri, PHNX Cardinals, PHNX Sun Devils crossover because our boy, Cam Skattebo, is a dog and he is going to the NFL. The question is, where is he going to get drafted? How is he going to do in the league? So let's unpack it. Bo, maybe from a more unbiased perspective about Cam Skattebo, where do you see him as an NFL prospect?
Is 1-1 too far
No.
high up the draft
I
board?
think you're
Can you
right
go
where we
higher
are.
than that? I don't know if you can go higher. Maybe just straight to his second contract
there
where
you
he's
go.
got all the guaranteed millions of dollars. Look, yeah, his stock was as high as it possibly could be the following week after the performance against Texas. Everybody was telling me, could this guy get into the first round? And like, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I said, let's pump the brakes there because it is a position that I think is finally like recalibrating in the NFL, where it was disrespected for a couple seasons, where you saw some really good running backs get cut from teams, not get paid on the open market, and the king Saquon Barkley came out and he just led Philly to a Super Bowl run, going over 2,000 yards and just going beast mode on everybody, right? So people see the value in a running back, and I think you found out the sweet spot where to pay them, where to draft them continues to be a bit of a conundrum. I think you could take Cam Skattebo firmly out of the first round. And then you can start to make and have those conversations. Is he worthy of a second round pick? And where do you have him slotted in as far as the top running back prospects in this draft class?
Totri is somebody who is obviously obsessed with college football.
Obsessed,
and,
yes.
and has seen Cam Skattebo up close and personal on week in, week out basis, not just, playing, but practicing. Where do you put him among these college running back prospects? Because sure, he didn't win the Heisman, but he was top 5. And I think consensus with All-American and whatnot, he's been about the number 2 college running back, but that doesn't always translate to number 2 prospect in the NFL draft.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. I think a lot of the boards that I've seen have him as the 3rd running back behind Amarian Hampton, the dude at UNC, and then obviously Ashton Genty at Boise State. I think seeing where Hampton goes is going to really unlock the rest of the running back class, because I do think it is a loaded running back class, especially with guys in the Big 12, right? Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, Ollie Gordon. Like, there is a ton of running backs in this class. I think Scat is firmly RB3. I do think somebody is going to fall in love with him at the end of the second round. That might be jumping the gun a little bit. I think he probably slots in a little bit more as a 3rd round guy. But like Bo said, his stock was as high as it was going to be after that Texas game, national television. He had a phenomenal season. There are questions obviously about his size, his speed, the wear and tear after the past 2 seasons at Arizona State that he's had. And I think, does his game realistically translate at his size against NFL defenses? I think that's the question.
I mean, do you think that it translates, Bo?
Yeah, he looks like he's going to be a guy that can play. He's just a productive football player.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just the excuse that everybody, when they're out of, things they can say about a player, like, hey, this guy can just play ball. I don't know what it is.
It's true, though.
But yeah, and he didn't just do it against, the non-conference opponents earlier in the season and then the Big 12 and then in the college football playoff. He did it against everybody. He did it against teams that give you the best challenge at the collegiate level. It's just, I think he got lost. Like, he didn't get lost. This isn't his fault, right? Yeah. I mean, the guy went from a 0-star recruit starting at Sacramento State to being in this conversation, which is fantastic. But like, when you start to like look at what he's up against, it really is going to be tough for him to kind of get out of the way of NFL decision makers who are very arrogant in their idea of like, they're going to see these guys that are going to test and they're going to put up crazy numbers. Scat's probably not going to do that. And they're going to say, well, I want to go with the guy who tests really well because I believe in my ability to maybe outthink the room and then also put him in a position to where this is why these guys weren't regarded that well out of college. And I'm the reason that they are actually the diamond in the rough,
Yeah.
not Scat.
Yeah. And I think Scat testing wise, like when he goes to the combine, now I'm not sure exactly what he's going to run. I know just from talking to him and from seeing him from the season before to this past season, he distinctly focused on getting slimmer, getting faster, and not losing that strength, that balancing ability that he showed all season. And that was really what helped unlock him get to that next level, especially at ASU, and become a running back that wasn't just ground and pound, right? Wasn't just, I'm going to run you over. Like he went around people. He went through people. Like he did a little bit of everything. He might not test great at the combine. I don't think he's going to disappoint at the combine. I think where people are really going to fall in love with him is when they're talking to him, right? And they're understanding, and maybe they're talking to Kenny and they're seeing the kid's path. You mentioned Sacramento State, 0-star recruit, right? Only had one real offer coming out of high school to go to Arizona State and then work your way through a 3-9 football team. People thought you were going to be the worst team in the conference, and then being the battery that powered you to the championship. You're going to sit down, you're going to talk with Kenny, you're going to see Cam, you're going to be like, wow, this kid just works harder. And if you don't think that Cam Skattebo is going to be a better player when he steps in the NFL than at the start of this last season, then you just don't know Cam Skattebo. Now, does that translate to draft stock? I'm not sure. I think there's only one world where he gets taken in the first round, and it's if the Patriots just won the Super Bowl and they had the last pick. Because that's like the most, and Bill Belichick was still there making decisions. Because that's like, that to me is like the most dynasty Patriots first round pick would be Cam Skattebo at the end of the first round or sometime early in the second
ASU
round.
Guys.
They did love ASU guys. Well, maybe that
didn't always work out.
It didn't work out really at all. But
Hey, Lawrence
Guy.
Guy.
So I was
Friend of the program,
friend of the program. That's a Super Bowl champion, Lawrence Guy. They do like ASU guys over in New England.
do.
Now that
They
you
do.
think about it. But with Cam, I could see middle of the second round probably being the ceiling for him. I think a team could really fall in love with him. He's going to be, like you said, a productive football player. And I think the versatility with Cam as well, the fact that you can draft him to a room that might be already having your running back 1, possibly even your running back 2, and still realistically look at how can we implement Cam Skattebo in this offense, because he can be a pass catcher. In fact, he's probably one of, if not the best pass catching running back in college football this past season. And I could see a team like, that's already contending, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, teams that already have weapons, to look at Cam Skattebo, Totri, and be like, that's just a small weapon that we can add and add an extra layer to our already potent offense.
Yeah, I think obviously you look at each one of those teams, and realistically the Bills have James Cook, so you're not drafting a Cam Skattebo to be your lead workhorse. I feel like a team that's going to take maybe a flyer on him early, and like you said, maybe the ceiling of a second round, I feel like it's a team that maybe doesn't have the second guy, right? Maybe I look at a team like the Bears, which we discussed on the show. I feel like a team kind of remodeling an offense. Obviously, you need to go get some offensive linemen in free agency or early in the draft. But I can totally see Ben Johnson coming in, trying to replicate what they did, with 2 running backs in Detroit. You've got the trick plays. You're like, okay, Cam Skattebo, he can throw the ball, he can catch the ball, he can kick the ball, he can do whatever you ask him to do.
Yeah.
I think you see a team maybe later, third round, even like the San Francisco 49ers, right? They have that zone run scheme. You see how effective it is. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, that offensive line. But
anything NFC West.
I think that would fit him too, right? I think that type of football that they play, specifically maybe just in the NFC West in general, right? Just smash mouth football. I could definitely see that, but I don't know if those teams are maybe second round going for Cam Skattebo. I feel like there's going to be a team, maybe like a contender, like you mentioned, right? A Buffalo, a Kansas City, whatever. Those are the teams late in the second round that are like, okay, this guy's not going to survive the third. People are going to take a jump, especially again, depending on where Hampton goes. If I've seen mocks that have him at the tail end of the first round, which I think is wild.
Yeah.
But it feels like every year, right? Like, I'm not saying he's a Bijan Robinson or a Jahmyr Gibbs, but those guys weren't projected to go where they ended up. I don't remember anybody projecting Bijan Robinson going as high as he did, specifically to the Falcons, right? And then Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions took a flyer on him, and look what he's done. So it feels like every year there is a team that's like, this is our guy. Cam Skattebo may be the guy for one of the 32 teams.
Well, is he the guy for the Arizona Cardinals? It might be a long shot, but we're going to unpack it. Of course, after I remind everybody, this episode of Southwest Bias and all episodes of Southwest Bias are brought to you by Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. You can elevate your brand. Look at Bo. Look at that. That is a nice PHNX hat right there.
Very crisp.
If you caught me on PHNX Sun Devils yesterday, if YouTube didn't crash on you, like it crashed for everybody, you saw me in my PHNX custom Branded Bills hat. And your company can also get a custom Branded Bills hat if it's maybe a fantasy football league that you've been repping for the last decade that you have a logo for. If you just started a business, if you're an established business, Branded Bills is here to help you out, especially if you're a local company, because they are also a local company. But not only can they partner with you, but they have partnerships with great schools, Big 12 champions, the best of the best, cream of the crop like Arizona State.
Yes, sir.
And the University of Arizona.
Local charity.
Yeah. Just got to help them out a little bit, right? Especially their football program. But we love Branded Bills. And if you want your headwear to stand out among the rest, head to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. And we have a new sponsor alert.
Love it.
And if you are an Arizona State Sun Devil fan, which I'm assuming most people watching right now are,
I hope so.
You know about Waymo, right? You know about Waymo because Kenny Dillingham knows about Waymo. And you know that it is a ride-hailing service where you don't have to share it with anybody else. It is an autonomous car, but not a driverless car. There's just no driver in there. It is a unique experience, and it is all over the valley. Scottsdale, Phoenix, a little bit into Mesa, a little bit into Chandler as well. Really, really fun time. They have over 150,000 trips per week across San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. They were the first company to serve as a fully autonomous ride with no human behind the wheel in 2015, so it's been about a decade now. And Waymo has over 40 million miles of real-world driving experience. That's enough to drive to the moon and back 80 times. Wow. 80 times. Download the Waymo One app and ride today. But will Cam Skattebo be riding off into the sunset, staying home in State 48, the Arizona Cardinals? Bo, there are a lot of crossover between Cardinals fans and Sun Devil fans. Is there any chance that you feel like the Redbirds have the Sun Devil?
Man, I feel like Mary Swanson and Dumb and Dumber, like probably 1 in a million.
Yeah.
So I'm saying there's a chance, but there's not a very realistic chance.
What's the biggest thing stopping? Is it the James Conner extension?
Crunching the numbers in the running back room.
Yeah.
They just spent the 66 overall pick, a 3rd round pick on Trey Benson, who the organization really likes, and he had a successful rookie season. And then you've got James Conner they just extended for 2 years. If you brought in Cam Skattebo, like the biggest question, like Jonathan Gannon always talks about, players who have a jersey on game day, they've got a role on the team. So if you draft Cam to the Cardinals, what's his role going to be? If you guys can define one for me, like I know he's a great football player. I know he can carry the football and he can be the vocal point of an offense, but could he be a 3rd down back? Would they give him a jersey on game day? And is it worthy of where they would have to draft him where they've got, close to the last couple of years, relatively like limited draft capital.
Mm-hmm. I don't see a team that just spent a 3rd round pick on a running back doing it 2 years
and
in a row.
And just gave money to
James
Conner too.
And I feel like Bo can attest to this. This is a very loaded draft and at a lot of key positions for the Cardinals, for a bunch of other teams, right? We mentioned earlier that the running backs, there are a ton in this class. I don't think you need to spend a 3rd round pick on a running back. Again, maybe someone falls in love with him. I just don't see the Arizona Cardinals falling in love with him, considering there are other needs, and this is a loaded class. When if you really wanted a running back, you could get a Devin Neal, you could get an RJ Harvey, probably 5th, 6th round, and be just fine.
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle, not just because, like you mentioned, Jonathan Gannon's like, what are you going to do on game day? I think there could be a role with Cam Skattebo. Now, not if he gets drafted that high, you're not just going to have him as your 3rd back, right? But I also think that the need, especially on defense, especially that defensive line, like I think the Cardinals are going to invest basically almost all of their top end draft picks on their defensive side. I don't know if you agree with that, Bo, but they just need so many gaps filled there that to add on to a room, like I think there's a world where the Arizona Cardinals could use Cam Skattebo, right? Like I think he could be, I think he could be a productive player for them. I think that if they did end up with him, even with Trey Benson, and I know they like Trey Benson, and I know they like James Conner, I still think Cam Skattebo would see the football field, not as much as if he goes to a team like Chicago that's actually going to need him and his various talents more. But I think he would have a role. I think if he's on the roster, he'd be suited up. He'd get some sort of snaps, right? He's also a player who's willing to play special teams. It's kind of aside this. It's just a matter of where are you putting the value on your picks and where's your biggest weakness. And for the Cardinals, on offense, like running back room is a strength to them, right? Not something that you're going into this draft saying we need to address.
Not at all. Not in the slightest. Like they're set. They're set. And I think you can let the other teams go and make that luxury pick if they want. Yeah. But I think the Arizona Cardinals, like you're saying, they do have needs all across the board, especially on the defensive side of the football and just in the trenches to where they can't go out there and say, hey, we're going to go use this third-round pick on a third down back or whatever it is, or a guy that's going to play teams primarily in his first couple seasons as James Conner plays on as an extension. But the one thing you are right about, like just his makeup, he's an Arizona Cardinal. Like a lot of the guys in that building already, you know, as far as what their background was going through school, being, 4 or 5 year guys, being team captains, the way that he's going to interview and blow people away. Like that's the caliber of player they've been bringing in the last 2 seasons. It's just unfortunate. There's just no room for him.
Yeah. If he does somehow slide, he's 4th, 5th round. I don't see it either. I think in that case, I think you take a flyer on the home count.
I don't think this is like Eno Benjamin where he starts at ASU and everybody's like, oh, you got to keep him home. And they keep him home and he's like, he's a fringe roster player. I think Scat will find a place on an NFL roster.
Okay, so I got 2 questions. I got question number 1 is what is best case scenario as far as Cam Skattebo for his career? What's the team that's the best fit, the best need for him that realistically he could end up with? And number 2 is I need a prediction. Where does Cam Skattebo end up?
This is going to come across as bias. I'm saying that now. And I would love to get Bo's thoughts because I don't think Bo and I have actually talked about this. But I think a really solid scenario for Cam Skattebo is 3rd round to the Los Angeles Chargers. I think
that's so biased.
I think it's very biased.
That's the definition of Southwest bias.
It is very biased. I will say that. But Cam Skattebo just feels like a Jim Harbaugh guy. You know that Greg Roman wants to run the football. Mm-hmm. They're going to invest probably another high pick on an interior offensive lineman. They're going to go spend in free agency. They want to run the football. I'm not saying that Scat is your guy to go be the lead workhorse, but you go get a running back. It's TBD with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Like, is there a real star in that room? I feel like you could bring him on. He could be your third down guy. He could play special teams, potentially evolve into that role as your lead workhorse. I think that it would be a phenomenal fit for him, a team that loves to play that style of football. I feel like in terms of prediction for me, I don't know why, but I just feel like the Minnesota Vikings feels like where Cam Skattebo might end up. Not sure what the whole situation with Aaron Jones. They might need him to play quarterback. Aaron Jones, not sure what that situation is going to look like in the offseason. I believe was just on a 1-year deal with the Vikings. Did they really have another running back behind him? I'm not sure. So,
and like J.J. McCarthy, like when he was not throwing the football out of Michigan, he was successful, turning him into a first-round pick. So it's not bad. I like it. Even though their paths didn't cross while wearing maroon and gold, will they wear burgundy and gold together? Jaden Daniels.
I didn't even think about Skattebo.
That. I like, and it kind of follows the footsteps of a former Charger and Austin Eckler. I think you can play that Austin Eckler role really well for Cliff
better than Eckler.
Offense. Yeah, a little bit more.
So what I'm hearing is with the 29th pick in the first round of the NFL draft,
but maybe
the Washington Commanders
maybe
select.
in the second round for the Commanders, or maybe the third round. But I think that's a good fit.
I definitely think in my gut of guts, he's going to a contender. I think that a contender is going to look at him and say.
Are those 2 teams that we mentioned that were in the playoffs? Are we not?
Yeah, I feel like they're both. All 3 of the teams.
First of all, let's just unpack how you felt like I was disagreeing. I was disagreeing with you there when I was actually agreeing and emphasizing what you were saying.
Super Bowl contender.
I was literally saying, you guys are so smart and so right. I agree with you. But I guess just how I usually talk, you assume that I was coming at you. I think he definitely ends up as a contender. I don't know why. I can't shake it out of my head. I think he's going to the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's going to make me throw up. It's going to make me throw up, but it's going to be I think it's the best spot for his career because I do think they're really good at using him. And the way that they use running backs and the way that they use like slot guys, like I feel like he can play a lot of different positions for them. Yeah. I feel like they get creative with them. And I feel like he'd become a security blanket for Pat Mahomes. Maybe not year 1.
Don't sleep on the Raiders. Don't sleep on the Raiders. I know, again, we've mentioned just about every team in that division.
I'm about to say that entire division.
Yeah, they don't really have a running back. New head coach, Pete Carroll. What do they love? Defense and running the football.
On offense would be like nasty.
Let me add one more team because I saw it and it just makes too much damn sense. Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They're a smash mouth team. It just fits his kind of his persona.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Najee's on the way out. Him and
Yeah.
Jalen Warren, maybe. Yeah,
Ooh,
I could see
Pittsburgh.
it.
That's one I haven't thought of. It's like every team I'm like, ooh.
He is such an
You
AFC
could-
North running
Yeah,
back.
you could jersey swap though any team on there. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Well, you heard what we think. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments below where you think Cam Skattebo falls. Do the Cardinals somehow snag him? Are they going to your other team that you like? Let us know down in the comments below. Of course, hit like on this video too. It helps us so much if you're listening on audio. Make sure you go over to wherever you're listening on audio and rate us 5 stars. All those little things that we continuously beg and grovel for you to do, they actually do help out a lot. Make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on. We'll be back later this week for another edition of Southwest Bias.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.